Great news! You're here early. Please stand by as our live stream is about to begin. Thank you. Did you know that Service Six Sigma has 6 sectors? Here they are: attract, convert, deliver, control, scale, and give back. Want to be a guest speaker for our show? Please get in touch with Ben Bergloff or Perry Tate on Facebook. We really do hope you enjoy this show. Any feedback is welcome. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Hello, Ben here with Service Six Sigma. Are joining our live stream early to watch our pre-reels that we have on our live stream. Play this for about 10 minutes and then we will start our show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
And what you learn really fast as you get older, and some of you are getting older, is that time goes by a lot faster, right? My kids, when I first started my business, my 15-year-old now was, 12 or 3 years old. And over time they get older and you don't realize that you only have so much time with your kids. And, I seen this statistic not too long ago. By the time your kid turns 18 years old, they are already, you only have 10% left of them from the 18 on. And so you get 90% of your time with your kids within the first 18 years. And, I seen another a thing when you start putting dots on the board of every week. And when you're at 16 years old or 15 years old, you don't get to see your kids much anymore. And so as I'm a big family man. And so I am big on, what are you doing for your family? Now, when I was running my pressure washing business and, I was a full-time fireman at the time, and I was working 100 hours a week. I was working 56 hours at the firehouse, and I was working 40 hours, 45 hours on the business because we had 4 trucks running. And whenever you start getting to growth method, things break down and you're not always there. And so after I sold the business, I really came to the realization of, you only got so much time to spend with your kids. You only got so much time to spend with your family. And it is important that you do that.
Back in June of 2001, someone left me unconscious on the side of the road in a hit and run motor wreck. I lost my career in IT. I lost my savings. I lost a photographic memory. I was messed up. Fast forward a little ways to July of 2002. I have an eviction notice from our apartment. I have turned my BMW into the bank. I'm waiting on Italy to make parts for my Ducati. I am 2 weeks out of a full shoulder surgery. I'm in an isolation brace, a neck brace, and a morphine pump surgically implanted in my shoulder. I call up one of my buddies and I say, "Hey, will you come over and shake my couch out for me?" He laughs. He comes over. He shakes my couch out. I grab all of the change off the floor and ask him to run me to a dollar store. I buy a bottle of awesome window cleaner, the cheap stuff, and a roll of paper towels. I also buy an empty squirt bottle so I can water down the LA Awesome window cleaner. The next day, I shove my sling just full of paper towels and I hook the bottle of window cleaner on my belt hoop, and I start walking down the road, going business to business, just simply stating, hello, my name's Brian. I'm poor, I'm hungry. I'd really like to eat tonight. May I clean your windows?
Want to hear more of Poor Man Brian's story? Visit www.service6sigma.com to hear his full story. We also have many more great podcast videos to hear from as well. If you want to be part of our future podcasts, please message Ben Bergloff or Perry Tate on Facebook. Thank you. We have many guests that we have on our show. Be part of a growing community of guest speakers and share your professional insight in the mobile service industry. Welcome to a free live stream built around 6 sectors. This live stream created for mobile service professionals. We would like to introduce you to your hosts, Ben Bergloff and Perry Tate. Welcome to Service Six Sigma, your live stream for mobile service professionals.
Boom.
Let's
and
go.
We are live.
We are
Woo!
live.
Okay, so this is episode number 31 with Jim Prom, The Anatomy of the Price. But first, I'll just quickly run down for everybody, like as quickly as I can, what is Service Six Sigma? Service Six Sigma is for the service industries, any industry that provides a contracting service. And what we're doing is swapping notes and getting the gems from each person's individual experience, both personally and professionally, as to how they've succeeded in business. And so we go live Monday to Friday like that. Now, the Six Sigma is actually a real business term. It's the process of eliminating errors in your business by systemizing the process of what you do in order to eliminate the risk or minimize the risk as much as humanly possible of something going wrong. Now, of course, you have to expect the unexpected, and what we're talking about is first are the expected things and then the unexpected things, and you systemize and process it, and then your business becomes more like airline, more like the nuclear industry, where Six Sigma has to be right. In order to help you in your business, we have broken your business down into 6 sectors, and it also helps us as far as running the show. So the 6 sectors are these. Attract. This is your social media marketing, your branding, your reputation, your networking. All of this is all how we attract, make ourselves known to other people. Then we have to convert the sale. And some of today is going to be about the convert the sale with Jim Prom, because it's the anatomy of the price. And the price is very important to the sale. Having got the sale, we need to deliver, and that's where efficiency comes in. So it's tools, techniques, on-site safety, on-site systems, and processes. Once you've got new clients converted and you're delivering, life starts to get a bit crazy. You can't run it on paper no more. So you need control. That's where your CRM comes in. That's where your automated bidding may come in with Responsibid, but we're going to challenge that today, I think, with Jim Prom. Because we're going to be talking about on-site, in-person quoting. And then, so we want to control systems and processes, training manuals, training regimes, SOPs, everything. And once we've got all that down, we can scale our business. That's where you go to multiple trucks, or you can add other services into your business because you're on-site with customers. Having got to that size, that's where we invite people in to give back and share from their experience, the journey, personal and business, and we'll be meandering through that now. So without any further ado, I shall welcome the man who will not compromise for quality. He will never accept less than the best, Mr. Jim Prom.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks a lot. That's a great introduction there.
Now you gotta, yeah, I've got you fired up.
Yeah, I'm all pumped up now. That's awesome. You know, I don't know where you want to start on this, but all the time when people are starting their business, they want to know about price. How do I price this? How would you price this? What do I do? And there's probably three schools of thought. You know, there's a fixed price, you know, $199 to $299. There's a responsive type bid where someone plugs in their statistics and it generates a price for them. But what we like to do is we go to each site individually and we price out every job individually based on the scope of work at that job. So, and I think there's a lot of ways that can save people and make them more money by doing it that way, because they can visit the job, see the pitfalls, know what they have to bring with them to do it correctly. They can check stuff like damage and water sources and all kinds of things that you can't just by giving somebody a price. Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah. That's a great place to start. So let's go through them and end up at in person. So, and just briefly, but just because each person who might be, you know, watching the show, they may have chosen one of the business models. So we should make sure that they know that we understand that business model. So the first one is the fixed price model. You know, it's the $99 guy, like, and we're going to talk, it's not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily walk away with $99 or his fixed price, but his way to attract the customer is with a fixed price, isn't it?
Right, absolutely. And some people think it's a bait and switch. You know, you get a lead by this $99 low price, and then you come up with $1,000 tag, and like, whoa, what happened to the $99? You know,
hell yeah.
So that can lose you the job right there, because you kind of promised them a $99 price, and you never intended on giving them that.
But some of those guys who are running that model will say, well, Jim, that doesn't work that way, because I do get jobs. You know, okay, I burn some, and so I burn some who have an expectation because I've set an expectation and I haven't fulfilled the expectation, and unfulfilled expectations lead to upset, you know.
Right,
but
absolutely.
They know that statistically there's a number of people who will be switched to the higher price, and that's their business model. I think I'm not one of those guys, so I'm using conjecture and not knowledge, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not so much about the $99 guy, because we joke about that all the time. But some people say, if you have 1,000 square foot home, I'm $199. If you have 1,500, I'm $299. You know, those types of things. But there's so much more to it than just square footage. And I'm a professional estimator, so I talk about that all the time. You can't go by the house square footage, because it's the square footage of what you're cleaning. You know, so you have to understand that
you haven't looked at what you're cleaning. Yeah.
Right. 1,000 square feet in the home is not 1,000 square feet of roofing or siding or concrete, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to know what you're cleaning and how you price that service.
Okay. So then we get to the automated. We're going to have Kurt on with Responsible next Thursday. And so he has developed that automated system where it's basically sits in your website and you put in all these variables, as many as you can handle and as many as the customer can handle, and then it pops out a price. And I think that's even more compelling that is the price. You know what I mean? Because somebody's done all this work and put in all this data.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know how you upsell heavily from that. You know, I don't know.
I think the upsell on that particular thing is when you go there and say they asked for the house clean, they input all the numbers and they came up with a number. And then you get there and you see other services that you can upsell for them. So that's where that comes into play. You know, you got there on, I'm going to do the house cleaning for $596, whatever it is. And then you see that you can clean their driveway, their fence, their other types of services. That's where the upsell comes into play once you get the job sold and you appear on site.
Okay. So then the next one I think is the progression from between that and on-site is the Google Earth over the phone logic, you know, where you're actually trying to assess the site by you know, using satellite images of the property. What do you see as the upsides, downsides of that?
You know, that works. I use that actually a lot of times. Like when I go to bid a job, I'll do a rooftop view so I can pencil out the outside perimeter of it. So I've got that for me, and I might even take some measurements off of there. But we have a lot of trees in our area, so you can get a Google Earth and all you see is trees. You can't see the house at all, or you can see half the house or very little of it. So that always doesn't work either. And some of the Eagle View software that people use for bidding roofs, the roofing contractors, they can't use it either. And the same kind of thing, it's blocked by trees or other things.
In your presentation, Jim, is one of your slides had got that? I think so, right?
Yeah, I think there's a picture showing a Google Earth slide there where, you know,
can you have a little look for that? It's got a big patch of green on it.
Yeah, it shows the house there, and it was an actual customer that said, "Hey, can you give me a price on this?" And all we could see was trees. So, yeah, you know, there's my house. It's right in the middle by the road. You know, it just doesn't.
Classic.
You know, and in new subdivisions, you know, every single house is wide out in the open. They've got a brand new tree, so you can see them easily. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's crunch down straight into the on-site visit. Let's start with how do you set that up? How do you set that up that it works for the customer and works for you and doesn't just burn time?
So you always want to make sure the decision maker is going to be there to meet you. Okay, you don't want to get into, well, I've got to talk to my wife or I've got to talk to my husband. So you always want to say, I've got Tuesday or Thursday available, morning or afternoon, what works best for you? And I need to make sure the decision maker is there. It's an important thing, because otherwise you're just going to run out there and give them a price and they're like, well, I've got to talk to my husband. So now you have to handle objections.
Right. Is it acceptable, friendly language to ask for the decision maker, or do you soften that down with a phrase?
I might soften it down and say, does your husband or wife need to be there to help make this decision?
Yeah, I think that's what the script that I learned was, this is Tom Hopkins, who, other than yourself, paying respect to them, is involved in the decision-making process. Right. I think that's very sweet, you know, because it says, hey, I know you're going to make the decision, but are you involving anybody else?
Yeah.
You know?
And actually, sometimes you'll get calls from property managers who are making the decision. They don't own it, but they are the decision maker.
Yes,
we got a call today for a customer, and their construction manager company called us. They make the decisions. It's not the homeowner.
Yeah.
So,
but see, and that's where it's so important not to make an assumption, isn't it? You know, like you ask a question. Don't assume that this person can't make the decision because they don't have the profile of the guy who made the decision in the last bit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So how do you present when you get there? How important is it how you look? I'm thinking you've got this all down pat because you've been doing it for decades, right? So you've probably got a whole formula of you know, I'm dragging us from the phone call to the door, and then we go from there.
Right. And there's so many steps to it. We probably couldn't even cover it all here tonight. But the biggest thing is when you pull up, you want to make sure that your wrap vehicle is in front of the home so they can see it from the doorway, right? Don't park in their driveway, especially if you have a leaky vehicle or whatever like that, but park in front of the home so they can see you're there. If you've got your uniform on and you're Ask the Seal badge or whatever, you want to walk up to the door, knock on the door, step back a couple steps, right? And be ready for them to answer the door. You know, they're expecting you. And with the seal mail we use, you can they'll know who you are before you even get there, because we're going to send it out and say, hey, I'm Jim, and here's my background profile, my background check.
Oh, that's super nice. So yeah, that is super nice.
So if you've got a team member, your salespeople, that can be sent out to them. They know that team person's coming. And even when you're coming to a cleaning, you send out the profiles. Hey, John and Tom are coming in. Here's their background checks, and here's who they are. So they get to the job and, oh, hey, John, hi, Tom. They know who you are.
You know, I think this is going to become really, really valuable with this migrant crisis, you know, about who's allowed on my property and who are you, and are you scoping my property, and are you trying to be a squatter? Are you, you know, like there's going to be a lot of this become more incredibly powerful as a tool for people to be really assured that you're the right person on the site, or your salesperson is the right person on the site, right?
Right. And I think, you know, I don't know if you've talked to Ed from Ask the Seal, but he'd be great on here because he's been doing this
Yeah, we're going to.
for a
Can
long
you
long-
introduce me to him?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll bring him on. We definitely want him. We've talked about him before. I think JC Janowski mentioned him.
Yeah,
as well.
Ed Marchicelli, great guy, super knowledgeable about this, and he's got a lot of people in lots of big businesses that are using Ask the Seal. It's a great tool.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've sent an email. That's great. Another point of contact. Very reassuring. The guy turns up, knocks at the door, walks 2 steps away. Where do we go from there? He's got a,
A lot of times,
what's your line that you break the rapport with? I'll tell you one. I had one guy working for me. He was an Italian stallion guy, and his line was, "Hello, Mrs. Jones. Today is your lucky day." And she'd go, "Why?" "Because I'm Pete, the amazing window cleaner, and I'm here to clean your windows. Like, I'm going to take my shoes off right here, and do you mind if I come in?" That was his pitch every single door.
Yeah. We use really gentle icebreakers. So if you've got a book of business or a pamphlet that shows what you do, some before and afters and kind of your story, you can hand them that and just let them know that, hey, I'm going to be out here for about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm going to be taking a look around, taking some measurements and coming up with a quote for you. And then I'll ring the bell and we'll touch base and sit at your kitchen table and come to talk about the price.
Oh, wow. That's so nice.
Yeah.
That is very nice.
So you give them something to look at. You give them something to look at. Now they're at the kitchen table looking through your pamphlet, your before and afters. They're reading your story, reading about your chemicals, or whatever's in your booklet. And then they're preparing themselves. And they're like, wow, these guys are professional, because a lot of guys will just come up with a proposal on a napkin, right?
Yeah.
Or a sheet of paper. Well, I'm handing them a booklet, a 32-page booklet of pictures and stories and talks about soft wash systems and our chemicals and all the things that we do. So there's no one can compete. Ask the Seals in our booklet. It's everything. It talks about background checks, talks about our family. It talks about everything.
I think what I like about that also is that there's because you're gonna have a look at their roof, you're gonna look at their driveway, you're gonna look at their deck, you're gonna look at their paths, you're gonna look at their gutters, you're gonna look at everything, and they might have just said, "Can you wash my house because it's dirty?" Like they're not one of us. They don't go, they haven't looked and gone and seen all these things, but that book can explain these are all things that may need to be cleaned, right? So here's the before and after of what it looks like. And so when you see your dirty house, you might just see the dirt on the sidings, but there's a lot more dirt on your house than you really know, and that prepares them for you when you come back in and say, "I've noticed this."
Right. And that's why one reason that we quote every surface that we can clean is because if they are happy with you and they call you back a year later and say, "Hey, we got a graduation. Can you clean that deck for us?" You don't have to run back out and get a price on it because you've already got it measured in your file.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the reasons the on-site visits are great because we're measuring everything. We're getting a price on everything. We're presenting packages, package A or the silver or bronze or whatever, however you want to classify them. But that's what they call for, the house wash that they call for. Package B is what we'd recommend you clean: your house, your glass, your gutters. And package C is the clean it all special. We're going to clean, everything, your fence, your pool, your patio, your drive, everything. And there's a nice discount for doing all that,
Yeah. But they're basically back to new, isn't it?
I like to say
put your car in for the detail, like we're going to get under the mats and get all the dirt out from under there as well,
I like to use the term that, beer manufacturers use. We put a new born on date on your house, right? So when we clean it, you've got a new born on date. Everything's clean today. And then when you call them back, we cleaned you 2 years ago. We did everything. And now you've got a date for your calendar to recontact the customer to clean again for them.
Yeah. So you've handed the booklet over and they've gone inside. That's really, really nice. And then now you're going to go around the property. Do you turn left or right? You must have a map of every property, or is everyone different?
They're all different unless you're in a tract home development.
Cookie cutter. Yeah. Cookie cutter thing. Yeah.
Otherwise, we measure every single property. Like I said, sometimes I pre-game for it, right? I'll go on Google, I'll make myself a map of it so that I've got at least the drawing, because none of them are just rectangles. They're all chopped up, and it's really nice to have that topographical, so you know the garage is a 3-stall. And then when you run around and measure it, it makes it real easy to make those measurements. You know, you've got it kind of pre-drawn out. You know, it's 24, 2, 12, 28, 34. You know what I mean? So you just and then doing the math of the gables and stuff like that. So I measure everything, and I do it like because I'm a general contractor, like as if I was going to reside the home or re-roof the home. That's how I'm measuring it. Not just it's going to take me an hour. It'll be $199. I don't do that. We do every square inch is measured, and I give a square foot price.
Okay, so how do you measure? Do you use a laser, or do you have a big tape measure and a small tape measure, like a cloth one and a metal one, or like what are these tools that?
So I actually use a tape measure, a laser, and a wheel. So the wheel,
the wheel is the other one.
Go on the ground and get your measurements, and they're very accurate. But
very.
If there's a lot of vegetation, sometimes you can't get close to stuff. So I'll use a laser to shoot from an outside corner to an inside corner. When you've done this enough, you know what 2 foot or 4 foot is. So you can just that's 2, that's 4. There's different things by looking at a garage door. You know it's a 7 foot tall door, so you know the wall is 8 foot tall. I mean, there's just ways that you learn to be fast about measuring and accurate.
So I want to spend some time on this, Jim, because I'm going to work on the presupposition that not everybody came from a quantifying background, right?
Right.
And so what we can do is try and draw from you, these summaries, the shortcuts, So if you're out there on your own and you need to use the laser and you're on a white wall, my brain is thinking, I could get a bit of 100-mile-an-hour tape and put a little bit of plastic on it and just let it stick out, so I've got something to shoot at. Like what do you do to when you can't get the laser on and it's still the best tool?
Well, the laser works no matter what the color is, unless you're shooting at the sky, then it doesn't. But I mean, if you're shooting from a corner to a corner, it just works. It doesn't matter the color of anything, And then
are some lasers better than other lasers?
I think they're all really the same. I've just got a Ryobi pocket laser. You can get it at your box store. But, for establishing the height of a tall building, you might not be able to, is it 30 or 40? But you can shoot a laser from the bottom and hit the gutter, and you'll know, okay, that wall is 30 feet tall. So I use a laser a lot for checking heights of gables, Yeah.
Yeah. And when would you pull the wheel out as if it's over? Because for me, my gauge, my step is exactly 1 meter, and obviously I'm in the metric world, but that's like 3 feet, roundabout. But I can pace out, but the wheel is more accurate, down to the quarter inch kind of thing,
I use the wheel at 12 feet, I would imagine, because I know what 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet look like. But when I really wheel all the way around the house. And if you're doing a driveway, it's great because you can do length times width, and boom, you've got it. Just two. Yeah. And I actually measure the driveway as I'm walking up to the door to meet the customer. I put the wheel down on the ground as I'm walking to the door, and I set it by the garage, and I leave it sit there. I've got my first measurement before I've even gone to the customer.
Okay, so how do you do this? You start the wheel when you get to the door, because it's measuring to the center of the wheel, right? When you get to the door, the radius of the wheel is missing from your measurement.
It's about 6 or 8 inches, but you can just see, okay,
add that on.
I'm 34.6. It means it's 35 feet. Yep.
Okay, so somebody's got to pick that up.
Yeah.
Okay, and then and what brand of wheel are all wheels the same? Like, does it matter if somebody gets a cheap one? I don't imagine there are cheap ones, but
there's I really don't like the small wheeled ones. They've got one with like about a 4-inch wheel. I don't like those because those can skip and slide. I want you to get a 12-inch wheel, a good one. Yeah. And they've even got finger resets where on the handle you can click it and it'll reset in your hand.
Yep.
So you're going to spend like $60 on that wheel, but it'll pay for itself the first job.
Yeah. When you look at the size of the wheel, you just think about, motorbikes, scooters, and push bikes, pedal bikes. You know, like when you get a little wheel or the JD Razors, you know, you get those little wheels that they're not the same as a big wheel, and it's similar to that. Like my background, Jim, I used to be a civil engineering draftsman, so I used to draw up car parks and roads and roundabouts, and that's what I did when I was young. So I did a lot of time on the wheel myself.
Yep. And if you've got wet grass, that small wheel can slide and skid, where the big wheel won't. Or if you look at the wall, go, wow, that wall is only 12 feet, but it looks like 20. Then just remeasure it, because maybe something happened. Sometimes a little reset sticks on it or whatever. But if something seems off, just remeasure it quick. No big deal.
Yeah, I think you can never underestimate. This is when you talk about experience. Experience is the ability to eyeball, and only with experience can you eyeball. You know, but you should always confront. No different than doing an exam or a test or anything else. Pretty much everything in life, you should always confront everything that you're choosing as a conclusion to check that it makes sense.
Right?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Right. And you'll get a good feel for what houses should cost. But I really don't like giving people ballpark numbers, because that's what they hear. If you say it's about $700, that's what they hear. And if it's $797, they're like, "Well, you said it was gonna be $700."
They're gonna be whittling it back to that. But that's the first impressions last kind of logic, isn't it? You know that if you create that impression, you gotta. That's the one that's you're gonna be fighting. Yeah,
absolutely. So I really hate giving people just give me a ballpark. I won't hold you to it. That's the biggest lie you're ever going to hear.
No.
Yep.
Okay, so measuring, we got the laser, we got the wheel, and then what do you use a tape? Because I'm trying to think, if somebody hasn't ever done this before, what would you say if they can't eyeball? What would they do for under 12 feet? Yeah. Let's say they will be able to eyeball 6 months, 3 months later, but just starting off and saying, I'm going to try the Jim Prom method,
Yeah. I do use a tape measure, and one big tip you can do is measure siding. There's different thicknesses of siding, 4x4, 5x5, 3x3. There's all these different sizes. And say you forgot your tape completely, but it's a 4x4 siding. It's 8 inches tall. You could count the courses.
You can count them.
You can go, I've got 12 courses, 8. So that's a 96-inch wall. That's 8 feet tall. So just by knowing, or maybe using fingers to say my finger's 4 inches, or to my palm is 6 inches, or whatever you need to do, so that you can say, I left my
little shortcuts. Yeah.
I left my tape at the last house. How can I get that? And even gables, sometimes you can't measure them. It's windy, but you can count the courses and go, okay, there's 13 courses of 4x4. That's 8 times 13. It's very simple, if you think that way.
If you think that way. And I'm trying to think for the guys that don't think that way, so that they can get the idea that you don't have to think this way to get it. You just have to know how to think, which is this, measure everything. So how long would you, for this process on the outside of the house, from when you've given over the book to when you've measured the house and you want to go back in and introduce a price to the customer, how much time are you thinking, if you've never done it before and you're trying on this method, for the first time, where you're actually doing it properly and making the record and keeping the record and all of that? And I know it's a variable, because it depends if there's a deck, and it depends if there's a path, and it depends if it's a big house or a small house. But what kind of, do you have a benchmark? Because you've got to manage your day as well. You don't set aside 3 hours for it, I'm sure.
No, normally you can get it all done in 15 or 20 minutes, especially if you've kind of pre-gamed for it, got that aerial photo, and you can buzz around very quickly. But it does depend on the size of the house. You could spend 8 hours measuring a big complex or something like that. But just a residential, 15 or 20 minutes, you can probably get what you need, and then sit down with the customer and go over your packages.
Okay. And in this process, so there's two things I want to ask you. Do you have a manual form that you fill in, or do you use something on an iPad where you're filling in, here's the gables, here's the gutters, here's the driveway, here's the deck, here's the whatever?
Yep. We have a 6-point carbon invoice that we use, and it's really good because people still like paper. Now we do email out quotes as well, but it's really nice to be able to show them all the things that you're going to clean: the house, the windows, the gutters, the siding, the roof, the concrete, the deck, the fence. They're all budget item over here. Here's what you call this for. Package A, the siding. Package B, we'd recommend you do the siding, windows, and gutters. And C is to clean it all. So they can see all those numbers, and then you apply your discount: 0 discount, 10% discount, 15% discount as the packages go up in price.
Okay. And then where are you keeping your notes? Like when you said we measured the deck, they didn't take the deck. They ring back 2 years later and say, I've got a party, like I need the deck cleaned. Where did you store that?
So I've got a whole notebook page of everything that I've measured that goes along with my estimate that I give, and then that goes in the customer folder that's stored back at the office.
Okay, so you're running pure analog, right?
Well, we are, but I'm saying we can send a digital one out to people, but really, when you're meeting on site, it's really nice to measure it and give them something in their hand that they can hold and show their husband if they have to show somebody else. You're not saying, well, let me send you an email tomorrow. You know, you've lost the sale. You've lost the sale.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
In their hand. And really, the reason you want the decision maker there is because you don't want them to try to explain to someone else what you just explained to them.
No.
It's the telephone.
No.
It's a telephone game. They'll look at the number and go, "Oh, we're not doing that." But they didn't understand all the benefits and all the things that you explained to them.
So when you're pricing the house, I'm still outside, okay, and or I've got you outside. What are your tips to doing it efficiently? Is it in a particular order that you go, as a rule, I'm going to do sidings first, gable second, then I'll come to the flat surfaces, or you've already measured the driveway, right? So you already got that efficiency. You walked up the driveway because you didn't park in their driveway. That gives you the opportunity to measure their driveway.
Right.
What's next?
I think the biggest thing for me is when I'm measuring the perimeter of the house, I'm actually getting the perimeter of the house. I'm counting the windows as I'm going around. I've got the lengths of the gutters, and I'm getting the roof measurements all at one time. So this might be really hard for people to understand, but as I walk a 24-foot wall and there's 2-foot overhangs, I know the gutter's 28 feet long. So I'll write 24-foot wall, 2 windows, 28-foot gutter. Nice. on that wall, and then I just walk around it, and I do that on all of them. So by the time I get to the end, I've got every measurement in one pass around the house.
Yeah, that's the efficiency. That's the efficiency.
And then I'll also denote water sources, problematic damages. We're taking photos with company cam the whole time, right? So we're taking pictures of the wall, because if I forgot something, I can fall back on the picture. Customers are great, but they also don't see damage sometime until after you've cleaned a house, and then they're going to blame it on you. So you need.
We get that with windows as well. Yeah, we always say, like, I put those scratches there. I exposed the scratches that were there. You gave me really dirty windows, and you couldn't see the scratches.
Right. So if any damage plant, any damage siding, and any damage at all, we document, because they will try to blame you for it, and you can say, "Here's the before." Picture, it was there before we started, and that ends the disagreement right there.
Yeah, that's the power. We also want to get the company cam guy on here, because he'll have an amazing story. You know,
that's a great program. You know, we just started using it. We were doing our own, but it's so nice because it builds everything into folders for you instead of having to enter them into folders, you know. And
it doesn't use up the memory in your phone. Like, I've got a 1 terabit phone, and the other day it was telling me I've got to offload everything because I was running all my, I don't like having to bring them down from the cloud. But anyway, I'm already up at 1 terabit that's saying, you know, you've got no memory left. So then I have to push it all back up to the cloud. So, and then now I've got 850 gig left, you know.
Right.
So company cam is great for that. A lot of people buy 128 and 256 phones, and that can fill up real fast if you're taking a bunch of photos on every job, you know.
Absolutely.
So company cam sends it up and keeps your memory in your phone for your family photos and stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't think about it. On a square house, you might have 4 photos, right, of the house, but on a bigger home, you might have 100 photos, you know, of plants and damage and different things that you want to note, or hand off to your team and say, hey, we got a koi pond here. We need to be very aware of what's going on there. So you're taking pictures of all these perils and things that could be problematic. And also when you're there measuring on site, you know that, oh, I'm going to need the 40-foot ladder on this job. We don't carry it on the truck all the time, but you'll know now to have certain things on the truck because you visited the site and you know what you need.
Jim, here's a question for you. So you talk about the perils, right? Perils and hazards. Do you have a methodology to handle time costing hazards? So basically, let's say there's a swimming pool in the way, or there's a cactus garden. I don't know where you are in the States, but I've been talking to Kurt, and he's been sending me photos of his home, and he's got great big cactuses in the yard. So, but so how do you add a premium for difficulty somewhere?
Absolutely. I just quoted a house yesterday. So say we have a normal house wash and it's a quarter a square foot as an example. This particular home is covered with hard water stains from their sprinkler. So there's white calcium efflorescence all over the house. So that is above and beyond the regular house wash. And in my particular case, I know how long it takes. So I go from X per square foot to X. It's more per square foot, but still based on the square foot. So it might even be double the square foot price, because I'm not only going to have to wash the house and clean the house, then I'm going to have to go back and treat the efflorescence and then rinse that. So it's going to take twice as long. The price will be twice as much.
And when you do that with a chemical clean, right? To take the calcium off?
Yeah, we use Craig Harrison's F9 products for that.
Nice. I was going to look for the tip on whose it was.
Yep. Craig Harrison.
We want to get Craig Harrison on as well.
Yeah.
Haven't got him yet. I've written to him.
Craig's got great stuff, and he cares about the customers and us as cleaners. He cares about all of us.
Yeah.
That's great about Craig.
Yeah. Me and Lalani go back a while, like not in a relationship sense, but just, we know each other and danced at a few parties together.
Yeah. And, I always tell people, like, so vinyl siding clean is really easy here in the States, so that's one price. Now, EIFS or Dryvit might take 2 coats, so maybe that's twice as much as vinyl siding. And you get into brick and stone, maybe it's 3 or 4 times the price because it's more coats and more time. So that's basically how I arrive at my pricing matrix, is that how many coats is it going to take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever it is. And that's how I price my stuff.
Because the thing which is interesting for people to get some idea, I've got this pricing guide for commercial windows, right, on our website, and it's basically, based on let's say back in the day, $5 a window, let's say, and then the ground floor and second floor are the same price, and then third floor is times 1.5. Fourth floor is times 2, fifth floor is times 2.5, sixth floor is times 3, because it takes more time to clean those windows and more skill and expertise like that. But the interesting thing then, my little methodology is just count the number of windows there, and then it's that times this, and then it's that times this, and that, or that plus that times this, and then that times 1.5, and that times 2.0, and that was my adding up. So that's what sort of brought my attention to the different things that attract a difficulty premium or a hazard premium. Like, for example, like when you go to use a ladder, I mean, how do you deal with a ladder? Do you have a premium for ladder work?
Not really. It's kind of built in, other than like when you're cleaning gutters. If it's a walkable roof where you can blow them, that might be cheaper than if you have to go around on a ladder and hand dig them all. So there's a difference in pricing there. Some of it is a little bit of give and take. Like if something takes you longer, you didn't plan on it, that's a learning thing. You just have to chalk that up for experience and charge more the next time. You don't go to the customer and go, "Oh, I really messed up, I need to charge you $200 more," because that doesn't really fly very well.
How are you seeing inside the gutters? Like when what are you doing when you're doing your walk around? I'm still got you outside the building.
Yeah, a lot of guys are using drones to look in the gutters.
Right.
Or just.
Well, we had a guy the other day, and he's just using his pole, and he's bought a bike mount for an iPhone. Like, we used to sell all this back in the day. We were miles ahead of this, but now you just buy a bike mount which would clip onto a handlebar, clip it onto the number one section of the top section of your pole, and just use your iPhone as another way. You can use a GoPro which has a Wi-Fi zone and have your iPhone clipped to have 2 clips, one big clip, down the bottom in the seat.
Right.
But well, so what are you doing? How are you getting a little look-see in there?
So, normally the customer will tell you that, hey, my water's running over my gutters. So that means they're plugged. So I
Right.
know that we're going to probably have to hand scoop those, or maybe it's just all the downspouts are clogged and there's not much in them.
Yep.
But when we get
Yeah.
up there, and if the gutters are not full of stuff, I normally will discount that down. Like say all we had to do was clean where the gutter meets the downspout, and everything else was clean. I will discount that down because I didn't have to do the work I thought I was going to have to do. Now, some people are
Right.
like, oh, I quoted them, I'm going to get paid. I just don't do that. And it gets me
Yeah.
more work because you're being fair to them,
Well, and it's not a difficult principle to do unto others as you'd have done unto yourself. It's not
Right.
real. It's not rocket science, and it's not psychology rocket science, and it's not human characteristic and being a decent person rocket science. It's just like
Yeah.
if you don't do the job, don't charge for it. Like in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, just figure out what works for you. We had a really easy walkable roof, and I quoted them a price for it because they were full, but it was dry leaves, and we were able to blow them out. It went really quick. We got everything cleaned out. They were super happy. And I said, listen, that went really well. I'm going to give you a free cleaning next spring because it went really well. And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, thank you very much. So I still got my money. It was an easy job, and I'm going to give them
Yep.
another cleaning. And there's the value I just added to them.
Yeah, that's nice. That is nice. And it also means you're already one service in for next spring booked in their mind,
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it?
We're going to be back in their neighborhood. The neighbors are going to see us there again. And that's a great thing too. If you ever get a cul-de-sac where you've got 6 houses you're going to clean, don't do them all in one day. Do
Uh-huh.
them on 6 different days, because people are like, man, you're always in our neighborhood. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
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 I think I learned that from Chris Martinez with I Love Windows. That was his thing, is like, you're in a neighborhood and you're going to do these 3 or 4 houses all in one day. He says, don't do that. Go back 4 days.
Yeah, as long as you've got the golden acre working, because you don't want to drive an hour there and back to do it on 6 different days. You've really got to have that well matured, sort of community thing, I think.
Right. If
Do
you're driving a long
you-
way, that's different. But yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. How many trucks are you running, Jim?
So we have 3 skids and 3 trucks, and we're only running about 2 of them right now. 2020 really slowed stuff down.
Yes,
It
yes.
just hasn't recovered back yet. I think the consumer confidence isn't there the way it used to be. Now we do have a couple of our friends that are actually interested in starting one of our branches in their area. So we're visiting that, kind of the Pat Clark thing of licensing ours to them. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure how all that's going to work though. So we'll just see. Maybe we'll be a coach and a mentor to them and help them build their own brand.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about from a territory? Like, how far are you prepared to drive for a job? When I say prepared, it's probably not really fair. In your calculation and your conclusions for your business, how far do you drive for a job?
So in our area, we do about a 60-mile radius of our shop. And that's real common for people, about an hour away. Now, if you're in a big area, 1 million people, you might only say, I'm only going 15 minutes from my shop.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the demographics of where you live. If you're in a real rural area like we are, you might have to go 90 minutes out. It just depends. And for some big jobs, we will go 2 hours away because it pays well enough to justify the windshield time.
And what about do you allocate one truck to one side and another truck to the other side? Does each truck have a territory, or do you just work it out on the day which truck's going to which run?
With Soft Wash Systems, the way they do it is you have one truck commercial and one truck residential. But sometimes they'll both be on commercial. Sometimes they're both on residential.
Yeah.
It really just depends on what you're working at that time. They might both be on commercial all summer, or they might all be on residential. It really depends on what's going on in the calendar.
Yeah. And so how do you do route management? Are you doing that with software, or are you doing route management just with your 18 years of doing this? You can you're like a taxi driver, I bet. You know every street in the.
We use software, but it's really, for me, from the experience, I know where I'm going to go, and I kind of lay out what makes the most sense, to closest to the shop, the furthest to the shop, to getting back home, and planning the jobs out so it's efficient that way.
Yeah. And are you the only one quoting, or have you got a guy quoting, another guy quoting as well?
I do most of the quoting. We're trying to train some salespeople in, but it's really hard to find people that are really good at sales, right? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with DISC, but you really need to find a person like I'm a DI personality.
Yeah.
And you need to find a DI that can get in there and be efficient and quote the job and sell the job and handle objections. Whereas other personalities, they can't do it as well as a DI. So you want to make sure you've got the right person in the right seat doing that job, or they won't be successful.
Yeah. So DISC, for those who haven't heard of DISC, DISC is a 98% face value validity, which means that people who do a DISC profile of themselves believe that's them, right? That comes back in the report about them, and it basically says we have a major and a minor attribute, and D is dominant driver, I think, isn't it? I is influencer, S is social, and C is the accountant, calculating. I don't know.
Yeah, C is really cautious accountant.
Cautious accountant style.
And for your money managing people, you want C's. Your office staff, you want C's, because they're wanting to know where every cent went.
Yeah.
Well, we really.
And also, by the way, C workers are great. You need to teach them 10 times, but once you've taught them, don't ever think you can change the way they do it. Once they get it, they really get it, and they just do the job. You want those repeating people, But I see what you mean. And the problem with the DIs are very often tend towards entrepreneurialism. DIs, so that's somebody who's a dominant driving characteristic, a type A personality, who also has charisma, which is their secondary. So an ID would be basically your prima donna salesman, who's just got everything happening. So he's got a lot of drive and push and all that, but he's actually all talk as his primary. Whereas entrepreneurs tend to be driving, decision making, momentum making, with charisma as the backup. We might have grown up. I think I grew up as an ID and became a DI. You know what I mean? When I'm 19 and stuff, I'm out there door knocking, selling stuff door to door. So
and you want to make sure you got you want, if your lead tech is a DI, that's gonna be great, but you want your assistant tech to be a C, because they're very detail oriented. So the D is going to drive the job and make sure it's efficient, but the C is going to make sure all the details are handled. And I'll tell you what, assistant techs that are female are the best, because they really make sure that every inch of that job is taken care of. So the DI has to slow down a little bit and actually let them run the job. Like, I'm going to spray the wall and I'll wait for her to do her thing while I go look at the truck or get set up on the next wall or whatever, because they're going to make sure that wall's perfect before they move on. And if you get too far ahead of them, that's just going to be problematic.
So 2 questions. Do you have an arrive on site checklist? And of the 2 techs who, now that we have a DI driver and a C assistant, who's running the checklist?
It's funny, because your lead tech's running the checklist, but really the assistant tech should be running the checklist.
Yeah, I think so, right? Because I'll tell you a funny story. I when I was selling accounting systems, I think back in the day, I was selling accounting systems to a bodyguard bouncing, pub. When you go to the pub and there's bouncers, that kind of firm. And it was called Charlie's Angels, and it was actually an all-female bouncing way back. I'm talking 30 years ago, 40 years ago, like really ahead of their time, Right. And I said, so how do you work this, right? Like, how do you, half the size of the bikie, who's going to make some problems, or the guy who's just come off an oil rig, out back somewhere, and come down to Sydney to party it up. And I said, how do you do it? She said, it's really easy. Sorry. She said, we talk to him as if we're his mum, and he behaves. Isn't that hilarious? Like there's this wonderful thing that, women can call and pull up the inner child of this huge human being and just talk to him and say, Johnny, you shouldn't be doing this, and you need to stop right now. Oh, okay. Like if a dude went up to him and did that, like it'd be like, boof.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? So anyway, it goes to this thing of where you look at the attributes of a naturally stereotypically female gendered person in comparison and alongside a stereotypically naturally behaving male gendered person. I have to say that for parts of America.
It's just real important that you know your people's profiles so you have them in the right seat on your bus, because you might have someone that's a good fit, but if they're in the wrong seat, they're gonna leave your employ. So you just have to make sure they're in the right spot.
Yeah, good. All right, so here we go. We now have all of our notes, and we are about to go back in the door. You've been walking through all the yard. You get to the front door. Shoes come off. Booties go on, or just socks?
So it really depends. Sometimes look at what they're doing, because a lot of times they'll say, hey, no, leave your shoes on. We've got hardwood floors. We've got luxury vinyl floors. It's fine. Leave them on.
Nice.
If they've got theirs off, take yours off. A lot of professionals like to have little booties on. People don't realize the dirt on your carpet isn't from the dirt on your shoes. It's from the oil on your feet. So, and even if you're doing stocking foot, you might want to put booties on then too. That really shows a level of care for the customer. So really mirror what they're doing, or ask them, do I need to take my shoes off? Or are we, if you can see a hard surface, ceramic tile, and then culture, right? Indian culture, they take their shoes off. Japanese culture, too.
Definitely. And so Asians, all the Southeast Asian.
Very aware of culture.
Yes.
You'll lose the job.
Okay, so
defend that way.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Okay, so now you've rung the doorbell. What's your segue? To getting to the kitchen table.
Really,
what do you say?
You ring the door. They open up. They're expecting you because I've preset that. I said, I'm giving you the booklet. I'm going to measure the house, and then we're going to sit down and have this conversation. So they're already ready for it. I'm not having to try to get to the table with them. They know that's how we handle the process, is sitting down and discussing the cleaning options.
Well, how would that sound? Like if ding dong. Oh, hi Jim, you're back.
Yeah. I've got the everything measured up. We'll just sit down and we'll go through the numbers and see what's a fit for you.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, it's really that simple. Yeah.
It really, you don't need to be flashy. You don't need to be salesy. You do need to understand things, but you just need to be a good person, because people don't like slimy salesmen. They just don't. And if you're going to take up an hour or two of their time trying to sell them something, they're going to sign something just to get rid of you.
Yep. Yep. And then, do you have, like, in your state laws? I know. I'm going to segue just slightly left, and then we'll come back to we're at the kitchen table. But in your state laws, do you have compulsory cooling off periods?
So on the residential clean, there isn't, but on the construction side, there is. We have a 3-day right to rescission, right? So they can say, "Oh, I signed and I thought about it. I don't want to do it." They've got 3 days on our general contracting side, but on the residential, really, they've called you out for it. They're probably not going to get cleaned in 3 days anyway if you're busy, right?
Yes,
so you're kind of giving them time to think about it.
That makes sense. In a sense, they can cancel. But do you take deposits or no?
We don't. Some people do. Some people take 50% down, or they at least ask for a credit card number. We don't
Yeah.
do that, and some people take the credit card number and then ding them the moment they applied on, they pull up the job. They charge them as soon as they begin the job, not when they're
Right,
done.
right,
But we just
to make
ask for
sure the
payment.
money's there.
Yeah. We ask for payment when we're done on commercial jobs. We're normally set up with EFT payments. So,
Yeah.
and we work with some of them so much that they'll be like, hey, we're going to go ahead and you're coming on Friday. We're going to process it on Monday so that on the following Monday you'll be paid. So you'll only have a few days to wait for your payment.
Yeah,
But that takes a special relationship with your property managers to get that stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's real nice if they do that, because we don't want to be someone's bank waiting 30, 60, 90 days for
No
payment.
way. No, you're talking my language right there. Hey, do you have a cancellation fee if somebody cancels? Do you try and recover anything from them, or
I've never done that. I don't have that. I mean, some people probably do, but I'm very flexible. If they cancel, I just understand. I mean, we're going up there on the initial bid, and we're not getting paid anything for that, so it hurts, if you lose a job. But I think you'll have a better chance of doing work for the customer in the future if you be fair with them and say, okay, thank you, appreciate that, and we look forward to servicing you in the future.
Yeah, because you never know what the reason is, and the reason is obviously something has changed, and it's unlikely that even if it's another contractor, if he's underpriced it and he's the one who's going to have his problems, and they're going to have their problems, and that's not our problem,
right? A lot of times, if they go with a cheaper price, you might end up having to fix somebody damaged, and now it's going to be more than you originally quoted, and they're going to have to understand that. Listen, we could have easily taken care of this for X, but now they've damaged it. Now it's going to be more, so we can fix it for you.
Yeah.
We have had customers cancel because of a medical emergency or something on a big job. They're like, can we put that off till spring of next year? Absolutely.
Like if they defer the job, it's so much softer. Like that's what I'd say. Are you wanting to postpone, or are you wanting to cancel? Just give them two words to choose from, because they might want to postpone, but in the moment, it's cancel.
Right.
They don't want anybody else to do it. They do want you to do it. But right now, my car motor just blew up, and I ain't got the money for you today. So it's a cancel today, but actually I still want to keep the job.
Yeah. And there are some ways you can do stuff with people like that. You can be real creative and say, I understand you've had problems with the transmission. It's going to cost a lot of money. Why don't we go ahead and do the job today, and we'll bill you 50% now and 50% in 30 days. Does that help you out?
Yeah, I think that too. Yeah, and definitely give them that option. Yeah,
give them the option. And they say,
because basically you're gambling with your gross profit. I think that's would you agree with that? You can gamble your gross profit, because as long as you get your money back for your wages, for your truck, for your chemicals, for whatever, you're okay, and your boys have been paid for the day, and you've made money for the day, so you haven't lost anything, but you gamble your gross profit.
Right, and we do that a lot with realtors too. When they're going to try to sell a house, we're like, listen, let's go ahead and clean it, and we'll charge you 50% now and 50% at close.
Nice.
So
that's a nice thing.
We've got our
little
money.
Gem.
Yeah, we've covered ourselves, right? We've been paid.
Yep.
That's our gross profit we're gambling on, but you're going to get paid at closing, because it just happens that at closing you will get paid. Especially if the realtor comes in with a bill at closing, that check's going to cut from the title company to you.
Yeah. Exactly that. Exactly that. That's very nice.
If something's too expensive, some people look into financing methods. Now, I've talked to a couple of different companies that won't finance because our tickets aren't really high enough.
Consumable. Yeah.
It's $1,000 thing. It's not a high enough thing to finance, or whatever. But
it terrifies me to think that people can finance cleaning. That's wrong.
Yeah, they like to put on their credit card. We like to take checks because we don't want them to pay finance charges. I would prefer they did not. I know some people want to get their Cabela's points and get that gun they've been waiting for, but we really like to take checks or cash versus credit card.
Do you charge the credit card fee if they do use credit card, or do you just suck it up?
So I don't charge it. We don't do enough business to do it that way. But if you are, I would just charge 3% across all the jobs, and then you're always covered.
Yeah,
Or
that's it. Just don't show them. I don't think show them.
Yeah, don't show them. Just build it into your price. It's a few cents per square foot across every single job. And if you discount the job because they paid cash, then you've discounted 5% or whatever.
Yeah. That's it, and you've already built it in. Hey, what do you do on a rainy day? Like if so, we're bouncing through some questions that Ben's been sending me in the background, which are fantastic questions. Rainy day. What weather conditions will you not work?
So,
by the way, which state are you in?
We're in Minnesota, and we're trying to expand into South Carolina. We have family in South Carolina, so we've been there for 5 months, working on building our business down there. But we're in Minnesota right now.
Okay.
So rain
all right,
days,
when will you not work? Yep.
Horrible weather, raining, lightning. A light rain is great for cleaning. We want to clean in a light rain or a mist. That's great. It's helping you rinse. It's protecting your plants. So, but a heavy rain, a lightning, heavy wind, those are things you're not cleaning in.
Right. All right, let me jump inside, and we're back at the kitchen table, and you are going through the option A, option B, option C. Option A is what they rang you for. Option B is what you recommend. And option C is a clean all with a new born on date for the property. How do you walk them through those three options?
Yeah, you actually start with the highest price. Now, people are going to say, oh, I want to start lowest price. No, you start with the highest price to shock them, or, well, that's not so bad.
Right,
because that's how you'll sell more of that high package. Or most people will pick the B package because that's I wanted that, but you see, and that's a good price. So you've got your low price, your middle price, and your high price, but you start with your high price first. So it'll either shock them, oh, that's a lot, or oh, that's not so bad. So that's why you start with the high price and you work your way down to the low price.
Right. So when you met them at the door, did you let them know that you're going to measure everything? Do they know that you're going to come back and say, I'm going to bring you a clean all price?
Yeah.
Or
I like to let them know that, hey, we're here to for your house wash, but we're going to go ahead and measure everything that we offer cleaning on for our records. In case and they say, well, why are you doing that? Well, if you've got a graduation coming up next year, like you mentioned. You might want something else clean, the concrete, the decks, or whatever. And we want to have that in our files so that we don't have to necessarily drive out and get you a price for that. You can just call us on the phone and we can get you that price. So you're really setting them up to understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Right. And then when you come back in and you say, look, I'm going to tell you the clean oil, what do you call a clean oil when how do you explain that? What's your vernacular for clean oil with the customer?
Whether you call it package A, B, C, your bronze, silver, gold, whatever you call it, I like to call that C, that clean it all special, and we're going to clean everything that we can possibly clean for you.
Right. So you call it what it is, right? Yeah. It's not platinum, which means nothing. It's clean it all.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't know what else you do.
Do you take them outside at that point if they start going, what? Like that's dirty? Do you take them out and show them that?
Well, you've got all those photos, so you don't have to take them outside.
Your company cam. You go like bidding. There you go.
Yep. So you can just say, hey, let me show you a picture, and I'm going to blow it up. And you see this here? Because a lot of times the light speckly black algae really doesn't show up from 20 feet away, but when you're standing right there, you're like, oh, that's covered with black algae.
Right.
So it's just having all the tools because, you don't want to get them up and walk them out and back and forth. You want to be able to sit right there and finish the sales process and close the job and move on.
Great. Okay, so now we have the three options. On a statistical basis, out of your experience, what percentage of people will take, if we call them ABC for the sake of time?
So exact percentage, I can't tell you right now, but I will tell you that most people pick
roundabout. Your feeling, yeah.
So 50% will pick package B, and probably 25 and 25 the other way. So there's your 100%.
Right.
So 25 will say,
Right.
no, I just want the thing I called you out for. 50% will take the upgrade, and then 25% will surprise you and take the clean it all special.
Nice. Okay.
And that's your chance
And
to
then
upsell.
how do you let them say that to you, or do you lead them towards it? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like in the sales process, we're asking them like soft questions which give them the ability to answer with a yes, not leaving them in a position of confusion. I'm not leaving them with too many multiple things in their head. So do you, for example, do you isolate out and say, can I just ask, for the clean it all package, is that something that interests you, or is that something that might be better for when you're looking to sell your home? Or do you have you got little lines like that?
Right. You always want to try to give yes questions, not yes, no questions. So
Yes.
exactly what you're saying
Yes.
there. You want to try to, and how you phrase that depends on the person you're talking to, but yeah, you don't want to give yes, no questions. You want to give yes.
Or yes, or spoken words that have meanings, words that we can take and roll again,
Right.
So, but can I ask, are you actually in the chapter of life where you're looking at, selling this home, and that's, maybe the clean it all is actually something you weren't even thinking of, but is perfectly ideal. That would be a great script. And then they're going, no, they might say no, but then they'll start going, we've been here for 10 years and we're thinking we'll probably stay here for another 5 years. And then you've got something to chew on, right? As far as the conversation goes. Yeah.
Right. That's just like when you book the appointment, you're giving them, I've got Tuesday or Thursday, what works better for you. It's a yes. You're giving them.
There's not like, are you available to?
There's not a no there. So, and does mornings or afternoons work? But you're assuming the sale, you're assuming the appointment, you're assuming everything, right?
Yes.
And that comes from reading sales books. You need to read some sales books so you know how to do some of that stuff. But really, just be a good person.
Yes. Yes. The thing that I've always worked on is that if I explain everything carefully enough, and I have empathy and I have integrity about what the customer actually needs and what they can afford, that's why I'm terrified at somebody putting cleaning on finance. Then I'm going to. What I'm trying to say is that the sale should close itself, in inverted commas. It didn't close itself. I've guided it towards the close, but I've realized that price is too high. I've realized that they are interested in what we recommend, or they're not able to afford what we recommend. I'm feeling that as I'm going through. And that's another thing which I think we really want to stress is this face-to-face. 80% of all communication is nonverbal, and you get this chance, you're in front of them and you're picking up cues, and you can watch a little muscle twitch like this as somebody going, holy shit, I'm uncomfortable here. Like that was way, like my credit card is close to a max. And they start, you start, or a quivering lip or something, like you see all those when you're face to face. You go, I'm going to move right away from that. Like I got to just tell you, the clean it all is for when you're selling your house and you need to get the maximum money for it. But if you're not selling your house today, Mr. Jones, this is, you don't need this,
Right.
But you can't do that over the phone, and you can't do that, in an automated system.
Right. And you can't see the pitfalls, the hazards. You can't test the water pressure. You can't do all those things over the phone. So you need to get on a site visit so you can see the other things that you can clean. You have the ability to market to the neighbors at that time as well, right? They see your truck out there. And I'll tell you what, keeping up with the Joneses is a real thing. If I'm standing in the yard with Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Jones will come out, and now I'm selling to both of them. Happens all the time. And you can't do that over the phone. You can't do that with a responsive type product.
Do you ask for the referral to the neighbor? I can't remember my script right now, but I used to have a script.
You want to ask for referrals. You want to do your 5 rounds or 6 rounds at the same time, but you say, hey, does anybody that could really use our service? You know, we're not looking for a list of names here, but you know, does somebody you know really well? Do they need something that we offer? You know.
Yes, I think the script that I had was something along the lines of, hey, when you think about, you know, your friends and your neighbors and, you know, the people that you work with, you know, it's quite possible that they also might be interested in my in my service, right? But as you're thinking of them, like, do any of them come to mind and that might be interested in a referral to me?
Yeah.
You know, because what you're trying to do is like, is there anybody you know that I can talk to, or can you give me 5 phone numbers? That you've never read a sales book if you're saying that, right? Because there are ways to construct the same sentence in such a way that if you were to that's what it was. If you were to refer anybody to me, whose name might you mention? Like, you listen to the construct of those words. Like, it's so soft. Oh, I might mention my neighbor Susie because she was complaining about it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Susie.
Yeah, we've got a really easy, pain-free way to do that. Is we have a referral rewards program, and so we talk to them about that. Like, would you like to get your next cleaning for free? So we have referral rewards cards, and say your friend has $1,000 cleaning, we will give you a referral reward of 10% of that cleaning. So you will get a certificate for $100. Now, if you tell 10 friends, you've just earned $1,000 or your next cleaning for free. So you're planting a seed without being intrusive, right?
Yes.
Just kind of
and it's very fair because it's nothing for nothing. You know, you say, look, we would pay our salesperson to do this. So, you know, it's nothing for nothing. It's you put your time into talking to your friends and neighbors, and we reward you with a credit in our service store, you know, kind of, isn't it? You know,
and the beauty of referral rewards is the certificates expire in a year. So, and guess how many of them get cashed in?
I hope all of them, but I bet you it's not.
It's not. It's 50%. So it's not 10%. Your referral reward program costs you about 5%.
Yeah, it's only costing you 5%. Yeah, there you go.
And they can cash it in. They can cash it in for cash or service. So if they say, "Hey, I really could use that $100," we cut them a check.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I think here's another one. I'm secretly terrified about what's going to happen to the economy sometime in the whenever distant, and I don't want to be, you know, every generation in the last 2,000 years has said that Jesus is coming back tomorrow, you know, and I don't want to be, and I was one of those, and I don't want to be the doomsday prophet. But there are really some very troubling times right now, and so there are going to be people who are going to have less disposable cash and are going to find it harder and harder to afford. Some people to afford our services, and this is actually a really beautiful way of dealing with somebody who says that's too much for me. They're not going to tell you it this way, but for the disposable income that I've got available for the service that I want from you, I want it from you, and then you can introduce this. We you know, like, we have a referral program. You know, if you were to tell 10 people who are friends of yours that you're about to get your home cleaned, and you know, and if we could, you know, get some people together in the neighborhood, it'll, you know, everybody will get a little bit of a benefit. You're going to get 10% benefit. You can reduce let's say 5 of them took it up. You're going to get yours for insight. Now, if I could get it done for, instead of $1,000 for $500, does that suit your budget?
Right.
You know, they go, yes, you've got a sale. Now just got to get $500 to them.
Right.
Isn't it?
Right. And there's so many ways you can do that. If you end up cleaning them and their neighbors at the same time, you can give them both a small discount, maybe even 10% for both of them, because you're there. You don't have the windshield.
Yeah.
There's just,
how many jobs do you try and book in a day, like on average in your area?
You know, three jobs, if they're bigger jobs or medium-sized jobs. Commercial jobs can take a week to do one, but I mean, three residential jobs is a good day. You don't want to overburden the guys; they get burned out and start making mistakes. And the same thing with sales calls. Maybe 4 sales calls is all you want to do for that. You want to allow 2 hours, right? To get there, to measure, to visit, to get to the next job. You don't want to pack too many in there because they're rushing the customer. You're being late for the next job. So You know, 4 is about the sweet spot. And yes, if you can grab another one, great. Or if you have to slide one in for the neighbor, maybe there's time to do that then at 2 hours. But there's not if you're only giving yourself 60 minutes for each one.
Jim, there's so much more to talk about, but we've hit time. What is there anything else which you think is critical? You know, because we haven't said goodbye to the customer yet. I've still got us at the dining table, but
you know, I think in the hour we breezed over, and there is so much more to this. I think we could talk every week for a year and not cover it all. I seen Ben's. I shouldn't do that, but I was reading his questions over there.
Yeah. You can see me working on them. Yeah.
Don't let me see those because my brain's working on all these things that I can answer all his questions. But just really reading is important.
Can we do it again, Jim? Can we do it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We talked about sales and books are super important. There's all kinds of sales books out there. I really learn a lot from Donald Miller and his Business Made Simple, his stuff. Howard Partridge is a guy I read all his stuff. I'm on the Howard Partridge Inner Circle for coaching. John Maxwell is great, so I read a lot of books. But I think people just need to find some sales books and read them, study them, learn them, but don't be sleazy. Be a good salesperson that serves your customer.
I always say that the difference between a con man and a professional salesman is his own integrity. We've both learnt the same lines. We both know the psychology. We both have got the scripts, but I will not sell you what you do not need. And he will. Yeah. Or I won't sell you what you can't afford, and he will. He'll put you into finance for cleaning.
Yeah, that's the high pressure guy. He'll sell you package C every single time, and he'll sit there for 3 hours till you sign and you've given him a down payment. And that's not who we are. It's very low pressure. As a matter of fact, in the Midwest, we really don't have that big of a sales thing because it's 7 degrees of separation. It's like, well, how did you hear about this? Oh, Tom told me about it. And now you're already in because Tom told them about you. And so you give a price and you're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go ahead. You're like, I've been here 5 minutes, So
that's great.
And it's different in other states, but just be a good person.
Yeah, but we can talk about that because you belong to the Softwash community, Softwash systems community, I should say.
Yeah.
Right. And we can talk about that next time as well because that's it's and we'll talk with AC, but you're in it and you've been in it for a long time. And so you'll have feedback from your networking and your conferences about what's happening in other states, as in comparison to what's happening in your state,
Right.
And people who are working in cities compared to people who are working in the country and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's amazing.
All right.
My brain's running because there's a million ways. We could talk for 20 hours. No one would listen to it. But I mean, there is so much.
I think they would because there's definitely some credible gems here. And I think, Ben probably is the best. He's like a one man multiple service business, one truck, multiple service business. And Ben, how did you find Jim's stuff? Ben hasn't got much voice.
No, I
how did you enjoy?
I loved it. I want him back.
Okay. Ben's been firing 1,000 questions, and we've asked. You better screenshot those, Ben, later and type them out, and we'll have them. Even though we tend to run, we don't normally, run in advance with questions or anything like that. But at least we'll remember.
I think there's also so much that people can learn with, especially with sales. Like I'm also a true believer on site assessments as well, and upselling is super super important. Taking photos in company cam, all of it. This was super great. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and we just really scratched the tip of the iceberg on the thing.
I know. All right, we'll have you back, Jim. We'll have you back real soon.
Yes, definitely.
We'll probably give you short notice if we need to fill in. We'll have the banner made. Anatomy of the Price Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4 ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we covered it all, but I mean, I think we gave some good pointers for the
people will come back, bro.
Have you thought about writing a book as far as your techniques and?
You know what's funny is I always tell people it's in my book because I have 500 pages of my book written already. I've been writing since 2004 and it's not published. Wow. Like, Jim, are you going to publish that book ever?
Oh, maybe. Goodness me. Maybe, but at least you've written down. Hey, I've got to go because my boy is getting his cast off his broken leg and I need to take him to the hospital. So,
it was a pleasure.
Ben, if you can wind us up. Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. It was delightful and highly informative and I loved it.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, okay. You had a great one.
Cheers, mate. See you.
Well, guys, if you guys like this show, there are many, many, many other shows that you guys can see on service6sigma.com. If you guys enjoyed it, please give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Have an epic day.
Joining our live stream today, we want to thank you for joining and being part of our Service Six Sigma community. First off, if there are any guest speakers that you think that would be great for our show, please send them our way. We're always looking for new guests, new speakers to be part of our podcast. Secondly, if you could please share this podcast on your Facebook and share it with other business owners that are in our industry, that would be highly appreciated. We're trying to share this to as many people as we can. So we want to thank you for joining our live stream today and being part of our Service Six Sigma community. We will see you next time.